Hi, welcome to the studio. Today we're going to be making a pair of Thunderbird earrings. So let's get going. My wife tells me Thunderbirds are all the rage right now. And since she's a professional art consultant and I'm not, I try and listen to her when she talks about art. So let's get going. What I've done so far is I have drawn a pretty classical looking Thunderbird on my computer, and now I'm going to transfer this image onto a piece of 24 gauge sterling silver. And the way I'm going to do that is simply by using some acetone. I'm going to put my Thunderbird face down and just douse the paper with some acetone. This works really well, as provided you have printed your image with a laser printer. This doesn't work as well if you have a laser jet, an inkjet I mean. So if you have a laser printer, print your image, and as you can see, it does a really nice job of transferring that image. And maybe you can't see. There. Anyway, certainly good enough for me to be able to follow along. The other nice thing about transferring with acetone and laser printing is it's a very durable transfer. Your fingers aren't going to rub it off as you're sawing. I'm going to go ahead and transfer the other Thunderbird, and then I'm going to cut that off with the shears. Step over here to the shears. This is my very nice Potter USA guillotine shear. Does a very nice job, especially with thinner materials like this 24 gauge. I'll go ahead and separate my Thunderbirds and cut off the excess. Sorry, it's been a while since I posted a video, other than the silly one that I posted the other day about my dog. I have been ill with the flu and haven't felt like doing much at all. I certainly haven't felt very clever to make a video. Okay, this is not going to work. This is a 2-aught saw blade. I'm going to see if I can locate a 4-aught or something. This is just too big a saw blade for this thin material. I'll be right back. Okay, yay. I did have some 4-aught saw blades hiding in the nether regions of my shop. I rarely use something as small as a 4-aught. Most of what I do is heavier jewelry, but for earrings it's certainly appropriate to use 24 gauge material. I'm going to show you how I tighten my saw blade. This is just a conventional jeweler saw. All I do is grab with the slide loose, just grab it and give it a little bit of pressure, and then when you tighten it up, it's going to bring everything taut. You don't have to push against your belly and do all the contortionist things that I see people do, or that are even taught in some trade programs. Okay, that's much better.
Yay!
Got lucky, got through it, didn't break a saw blade. Now we're all finished. Good for us. Okay. Here's our 2 Thunderbird earrings. Now all we have to do is find some appropriate turquoise, because you can't have a Thunderbird without turquoise. Okay, I have retrieved my collection of really super nice turquoise from the big old safe downstairs, and I can see right on top what I'm looking for. We have some very nice $10 per carat Bisbee. Bisbee is some of my very most favorite turquoise. So, if I were a Thunderbird, I would want to wear that on my chest and that one. These two are exactly what I was looking for. My wonderful wife just brought me this tasty looking roast beef sandwich. So I think I'm going to take a break. Well, that was a delightful lunch break. Now we need to make some bezels for these beautiful pieces of Bisbee. And in order to do that, I'm going to use a piece of blue painter's tape. And I'm going to slice it a bit narrower than it is with my X-Acto knife. And then I'm going to wrap it around one stone, mark it. Okay. Right here. There's my Sharpie mark. And that's how long our bezel material will be, but I'll need to add some once I determine the thickness of the bezel material. So let me see what I have, and I'll be right back. Okay, I have a long, narrow strip of 24 gauge. Actually, I think it's 22 gauge, and that's just fine. This is a 5-carat stone, I see, so that means I would have paid $50 for this stone. But these are not going to be inexpensive earrings. In other words, this is also 5-carat, so we have $100 worth of raw materials right here. Now, I kind of paid a premium because I was in a pinch for some Bisbee. Okay, I need to measure the height of these stones roughly. Looks like about 2 millimeters or so. And put a mark. And I think I'll just trim this on the shears, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm all set up with my top jaws holding the bezel and my bezel indexing tool. I am making some shallow castellations. Turned out rather well. One down, one to go. Now I'll need to solder the bezels together. And I'm going to be using my half round flat pliers to form the bezel into a circle. And as always, you want to take your time and get as perfect a fit as you can to make your soldering job go so much easier. That is perfect enough. Since this is the only soldering I'm doing, and I have some medium solder laying right here, I'm going to use it. And I'm just going to cut a couple of short lengths and position them with the bezel, the seam of the bezel sitting directly on top of the piece of solder, if I can. Okay, use a little bit of spray flux right on the seam of a neutral flame. And the solder flowed. And the solder flowed. And we'll pickle that. I'm just forming the bezel around the stone because this is thin bezel material. This is not very difficult, especially since I have those little serrations. It's quite easy to just press it down onto the stone. That one's just a little loose. Let me see if it fits better on here. Yeah, it does. Okay, that's a pretty good fit. That's a more satisfactory looking oval. Okay, there we go. All right, now all we need to do is solder the bezel to the individual earrings and do some stamping, do some oxidation, put an ear wire on, and that'll be that. I know that I mentioned that I was going to stamp these Thunderbirds, but I decided instead that I would engrave them, I'm setting up to draw the scroll work that I'm going to engrave on the back side of the Thunderbirds. And I generally do all of my drawing using a Wacom tablet and Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator. And I find it's just a lot easier because I use my drawings for transfers most of the time. And you can transfer directly from the digital image by printing it in reverse, and it just makes it easy to do. Also, it's easier for me to utilize the undo button rather than the eraser. And over the years, I've just kind of slowly migrated to digital drawing versus paper and pencil drawing. It's there's a learning curve, but I think it's worth it in the long run. It's just so much better. So anyway, I'm finishing up the drawing here. I'll print it and then use the printout to transfer the engraving backbone drawing to the metal. Okay, now that I have my design drawn, I can transfer it to the metal the same as before using the acetone method. And I'm not looking for perfection again. I'm just looking to give myself some guidelines. I'll probably simplify this design. One of the things about drawing on the computer is it's easy to increase the size on the screen and fool yourself into thinking you can get more detailed than you actually can. This design is pretty busy. I'm sure I'll simplify it. The design elements are just going to be too small to see a lot of them. So, but that's okay. I'll take many liberties with changing things up. I just have this 24 gauge metal attached to a block of wood. I made this little block of wood so I could put it in my engraver's vise, and I just put some hot glue down and warmed up these pieces and laid them on top of the hot glue, and that'll hold them really secure and make them easy to work with. Now it's time to start engraving our Thunderbird. This is the back side of the Thunderbird, and I have decided that I'm going to engrave both the back side and the front side rather than stamping, because honestly I find it easier to engrave than to stamp. It's what I've done the most of in my artistic endeavors. First thing we'll do is engrave a border around our Thunderbird. A free bit of advice on design: if you're an engraver, always create a border. It will improve any design, period. Okay, nice heavy border. That's a good way to start. Now I'll engrave the backbone of my scroll. And I'm using the lines that I transferred earlier as kind of a rough guide. I don't stick religiously to them. I make adjustments on the fly as necessary to make things just look a little bit better. Okay, now that the backbone of the scroll work is all engraved, I'll remove any remaining lines from my transfer so as not to confuse myself. And I'll start engraving the details, the leaf elements, if you will. And this is just a kind of a standard bright cut technique that's just free-handed. I use the universal point to do bright cutting on small pieces like this, and it works out just fine. Some rules of thumb on bright cutting is you want your bright elements to be roughly 1/3 as wide as the leaf element. So here's a bright cut element, and there's another bright cut element. Now I'm going to fill in between with a leaf element. That's kind of a butt cap, a bull nose, and that pretty much finishes that little scroll. So I start on the next scroll. You want to try and keep the elements of your engraving fairly consistent in size. As you go from a tiny scroll to a great big scroll, you're going to have some deviation in the size of the individual leaves, but you don't want it to vary a great deal, otherwise it's really noticeable. It looks out of place. And you want to maintain that consistency of, the bright elements being essentially 1/3 the width as the leaf elements. Wow, look at you. You made it all the way to the end of the video. I really appreciate you staying till the end. You are awesome. Besides telling you how awesome you obviously are, I wanted to invite you to subscribe if you haven't already, and please leave a comment, get engaged, ask a question. If there's something you'd like to see, I'll be happy to try and make a video of a specific subject. But seriously, I really appreciate you spending part of your day with me, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. I've already filmed the ending of this video, and I just have to do some editing, and I'll be putting it up in the next few days. Have a great day.